Hey everyone, how's it going? This is Azren, the language nerd here. I hope you're having a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, or night, whatever time it is for you right now as you're watching this video. And I've got to say, I'm excited to be making this video today because as I'm recording this is the very first time I have made a 100% self-study program. Let me share my screen. I have made a program before, which is a self-study program, but it was not 100% self-study. It was 75% or 80% self-study. And in order for you to properly follow the program, you would need to actually involve either a native speaker or an advanced speaker of the language within your study regime. You would need to involve them to an extent. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to properly use that program. But this one here is not like that. This is 100%, 100% self-study based. You do not need to have a tutor. You do not need to know other native speakers. You do not need to know any advanced speakers. You can learn from the comfort of your own home as long as you have an internet connection. So I want to take the next 20 minutes or so to introduce you to the program, talk to you about who this program is for, who this program is not, walk you through a couple pieces of the program that I believe are important or that maybe need a little bit of explanation or demos or things like that. And so here we go. So first of all, the program is broken up into 3 parts. There's part 1, part 2, and part 3. Part 1 covers days 1 through 30. Part 2 covers the next 30 days, and part 3 covers the 30 days after that. I think some of you might take more than 90 days to complete it. There's a possibility for that, especially if you choose to spend extra time on some of the activities that I provide in the program and in this workbook. I do not think there will be many of you that finish this under 90 days. That I don't think anyone's going to be finishing this I don't think many people are going to finish this in less than 90 days. There's just too much content and too much to go through. By the time that you are done, all 3 parts, so part 1, part 2, and part 3, by the time you are done, you will be able to express yourself in simple terms and slowly. Meaning you'll be able to introduce yourself, talk about some of your hobbies, talk about where you live, or talk about your family or things like that. You'll be able to do so in very simple terms, and you'll be able to do it slowly. It won't be 100% fluently. But I think that's pretty good. I think it's pretty good after 90 days or so. You know, when you look at self-study programs, this is something for you to keep in mind. When you use any self-study program, a lot of them, when you've used it for a certain amount of time, you don't actually improve that much in terms of your ability to communicate. So a good example of this would be Duolingo. If you use Duolingo alone for 90 days and you take a group of, let's say, 100 people who use Duolingo for 90 days in a row, very few of them will have actually improved in their ability to communicate in another language. Very few. And so what I'm proud to say is that this program here, I think that a reasonably high percentage of you, after you're finished part 1, part 2, and part 3, your ability to actually communicate in another language will have moved forward. You will have progressed, and you will be able to communicate in simple terms, and of course, slowly. It won't be as fluently as I'm speaking right now. And if you are going through this program, or you even complete the program and you find yourself realizing that your ability to communicate has not improved, by the way, that this goes for my program and all self-study programs. This is just a general rule of thumb. If that happens, what that has shown you is that that likely you are the type of person that is going to need to get some external help, some outside help to learn a language from a tutor, for example, a skilled tutor. I'm someone like that. If I were to only go the self-study route, I would really struggle to learn. I would learn quite slowly myself. So I personally hire a lot of tutors. I take classes because that's just how I learn, and it's necessary for me. I need that. So some of you that do use this program or any other self-study program, and you find that your ability to communicate is not really progressing, well, that's an indication to you that you probably need to get some outside help, likely in the form of a skilled tutor or a skilled teacher. Okay. A few more things before we dive into the program itself, and I can show you what's in it. I want you to know that this program is not for English learners, because everything in the workbooks is written in English. So if you don't speak any English, you're not going to understand what's in the books. Number two, this program is not for people that are learning an endangered language or any indigenous languages, because it's just not designed for languages like that. This is designed for languages that are widely spoken or widely learned. French, Spanish, Mandarin, German, things like that. Things that are widely spoken and widely learned by lots and lots of people around the globe. And this program is designed for languages like that. And as you can tell by the title, Your First 90 Days, the program is designed for people that have a beginner level. And if you already have a foundation in the target language, this is probably not the best program for you. You may still choose to use it. You may still choose to use it as a way to review or something like that. But you are not the person I had in mind exactly. If you already have a foundation in the language, you are not the person I had in mind when I was making this set of workbooks. Lastly, these aren't very expensive workbooks. They're pretty affordable. You'll see the price on my website, of course. They're not too expensive. I would recommend getting all three at once. Not necessarily because, I want you to buy all three and I make more money. Not exactly. More because if you have even two at once might even be good. Like just having more than one, because you might choose to do some of the activities in part 3 earlier on, because you might be doing the part 1 activities and you might decide, okay, this is getting a little bit challenging and I'm getting frustrated. Let me try something in part 2 or part 3, and let me take a break from part 1 by working on something in part 2 or 3. That is definitely something you can do. You do not necessarily have to work through these books in sequential order, not necessarily. I've designed it so that you can sort of bounce around a bit. And so that way there's a little bit of extra flexibility and freedom. Does that make sense? Anything else before we jump into this? There is a sample version on my website. You can actually download a whole sample. You can download a sample of the entire program. So everything's in here. You can see everything. And then I've just redacted certain pages, like this page here. This page is only available to those who purchase the workbook. Visit this website to do so. So I've just redacted a whole bunch of pages, right? As you can see. Or redacted, is that the right word? It's not important. And with that aside, let's jump into this introvert-friendly self-study program. This here is the table of contents in book 1. This before you begin page right here is just essentially telling you to go watch this video that you're watching right now. So we don't need to talk much about this. About the author, well, that's me. We'll do it very quickly. So I run the Calgary Language Nerds. I have a double major in French and Spanish from the University of Calgary. I finished that in 2014. I'm on a journey to learn 8+ languages. I currently speak 5, so English, French, Spanish, Mandarin, and Gujarati. Depending on when you're watching this, if it's like 2 years later, I might have added some others to the list that I speak. I have lived and breathed foreign language acquisition since 2008. So I have 15,000+ hours of experience when it comes to learning and teaching languages. That's like my world. I love to travel, but unlike most people, I travel typically for language learning purposes. So I will travel to Mexico, or I've never been to Mexico actually, but I'll travel to Peru or France or wherever in order to practice a language with locals. So that's a unique fact about me. And I enjoy business operations. And in fact, I've essentially always, let's say at least as an adult, I've worked in people-oriented positions that involve training, coaching, sales, and business operations. If you want to read my full story, simply go to azrenthelanguagenerd.com/Calgary Language Nerds, and you can read like a more detailed bio. So part 1 of book 1 is teaching yourself pronunciation. So sound is the basis of foreign languages. And so you need to have a good grasp of the sounds in your target language. In order to do that, what you simply do is you go into YouTube and you're going to watch pronunciation videos. And you're going to watch videos that explain the pronunciation of your target language. You will then record yourself on your phone saying each letter or each sound. You'll listen to the recording to hear yourself talk, and then you're going to re-record yourself to try and say it as accurately as you can. Okay. And you're going to try by yourself to make it sound as close to the native pronunciation as you can. So from the perspective of a French learner, you might search French alphabet, you might search French pronunciation, you might search introduction to French pronunciation, you might search how to pronounce a French R. This is the kind of thing you're going to be searching, and then you're going to watch some of these videos to teach yourself, or rather be taught by YouTube or a YouTuber, what the alphabet and the sounds of the language looks like. Pretty easy, nothing crazy complicated there. I provided you a page to practice writing the alphabet and any words you happen to learn while watching pronunciation videos. This is especially relevant if you're learning a language that doesn't have the same script as your mother tongue. So if you're learning Mandarin and you speak English, well, there's a lot of characters to learn. And in fact, Mandarin's a funny example because Mandarin doesn't exactly have an alphabet. It has like the pinyin system. So that's actually even more interesting. You'll get to practice your characters and you'll get to practice the pinyin. So yeah, that's the pronunciation chunk there. Nothing overly complex. This I'll let you guys read on your own, but essentially don't overdo pronunciation. Like, it's very easy to get frustrated over it. So don't over obsess over it. Just do a little bit every day and aim to gradually improve. Think of it like going to the gym or doing exercise, something like that. And you can't become buff overnight. You have to go a little bit every day, and eventually your muscles grow. Well, your tongue, your mouth is going to work the same way. It's very difficult to master it's very difficult to master pronunciation overnight. It typically happens, over time you start to improve and you start to get clearer and clearer pronunciation. So part two in part two. So the second part of this first book here is how to teach yourself greetings and other essential phrases. So over the next few pages, I've given you a list of words and phrases you should learn right away because they're used all the time. Pay attention to the pronunciation because your ears are not familiar to the sounds of the target language. Now, this is an important part here. We have this list of words. You might be asking yourself, well, Azren, how the heck do I know how to say these words? Do I just use Google Translate or do I use a dictionary? Like, how do I learn how to say hi and bye, yes and no? Well, let me demonstrate. You go onto YouTube, and people don't do this. I don't know why people don't do this, but if you do this, it's going to be amazing for you. This is one of the best self-study tools you have that exists. Instead of looking in a translator or a dictionary, use YouTube as your translator. So let's say you want to learn how to say, I understand or I don't understand. Go into YouTube. Whoops. Go into YouTube. Let's say you're learning French. You simply search, how do I say I don't understand in French? And often you're going to find videos that tell you, look at this, right? You can see these people that make these videos, right? Some of these are not relevant, like this one, why the French don't understand you. That's not what you're looking for. But these first ones, boom, right here. Now you might be thinking, Azren, that's a fluke. What if it's a different language? What if it's Mandarin? Okay, well, let's search Mandarin. Let's see what we get. How to say, I do not understand. Well, there you go. First video. What if it's Japanese? Let's see. Boom, look at that. First video right there. Here's another one right there. So the great thing about doing it on YouTube is you can hear what it sounds like. Whereas in a dictionary, you don't know what it sounds like. Now, playing devil's advocate, you might say to yourself, well, Azren, hang on. Like, I don't understand. That's a pretty common one. What if it's like, I'm a doctor or something? Well, let's give it a try. How do you say let's Google it or let's YouTube it. I'm a doctor in Japanese. Let's see what we get. Okay, let's see. Okay, this one's a bit harder, right? This one here, we don't have a great video, but you might say something like, okay, how do you say I am, right? Oops, in Japanese. You might get something there. You might have to play with some of the search queries. Look at that. This guy's made a video. How do you say I am in Japanese? Boom. Look at that. Look at that, right? That's amazing. That's great. So now you can say, okay, I know how to say I am. Then you can find something that talks about being a doctor. And sometimes you might have to be a little bit flexible. Like maybe, let's say this I am didn't show up. Well, if you think about the phrase I am is often used in self-introductions. You might say, I am Canadian, I am this. So if we look at this video here, which is how to introduce yourself in Japanese, right? You're very likely to learn how to say I am in this video. Does that make sense? So one of the keys for this program here is you're going to have to be a good YouTuber, because you're a good searcher. Like you have to be good at searching on YouTube and Google and such. Google, YouTube, because listen, you're trying to learn by yourself, right? You're trying to learn by yourself. And so you do need to be a little bit more, when you're trying to learn something by yourself and not with a tutor or a teacher, you have to be a bit more resourceful. You can't just rely on Duolingo, Rosetta Stone, my program, Babbel. You can't just rely on it, because there's something that you're going to need that's not provided by the program. And you're going to have to be resourceful to figure it out. Does that make sense? So this is one, I would search these on YouTube, right? On YouTube. If you get stuck and you really can't find it on YouTube, then you can go to Google or find an online dictionary or translator, try to look it up there. Google, so in case you didn't know, let's flip Google Translate. Let's go, for example, English to Gujarati, and I go, hello. Google does have the speaker button right here, so you can click it and you'll hear what a computerized voice sounds like saying that word. So it's not a real person, but it's still better than nothing. It's still pretty darn good. I prefer YouTube because you can hear a real person say it, but this is not bad either. This is, if you can't really find it on YouTube and hear a real person say it, you can search it up here. Another tip I'll give you, let's say you get this, right? And you're like, oh, I want to hear a real person say this. You copy it, you go into YouTube and you say, how to pronounce, and you search the word. And often, not always, but often you're going to find these videos that teach you, these are not what we're looking for. Let's try the English spelling of this. There we go. There's some people that have made videos, how to correctly pronounce namaste, right? This guy's making a joke about it, how to pronounce namaste. Often you can find people that have made these short videos teaching you how to pronounce a specific word, often, or phrase even, especially if they're really common, simple phrases. So again, be resourceful in your searching. Okay. So here's our list. You guys have access to that. And that's it. That's workbook 1. Super short. This can be done. Well, I don't know. This should be pretty quick. I don't even know. Like the pronunciation might take you some time. Like, but this is very doable in 30 days. I would probably break it up and say, maybe split it in half, 15 days to really get a good handle on pronunciation, recording yourself, re-listening, 15 days on the phrases. I think that's a good way to approach it. Hour a day, 60 minutes a day, something like that is very, very realistic. Some of you might finish this a little bit faster, to be honest, some of you. Now, let's go to part 2. Part 2, we're going to cover, this will take a lot longer. And for part 2 especially, I do like, you might want to have part 2 and part 3 at the same time, because some things in part 2, you're going to want to take a break and go and do some part 3 exercises. I'm telling you right from the get-go, okay? So I provided you here with some self-study word lists, okay? This one here is a self-study word list that has common verbs, 100 common verbs, okay? And it's a checklist style of sheet. Let me actually scroll ahead first. There's another one here, a self-study word list, which is adjectives, so describing words. Now, the way I've structured these, the verbs and the adjectives both, if we just kind of go to the top again, zoom in. So there's the verb on the left-hand side in English. Here, there's a space for you to write the verb in your target language. And I put a little, this is really useful, I think. You can come back to this sheet. Over here, it says, I don't know this word in my target language at all. You might put a little check there. Maybe you're like, oh, I know this word, but I need some more practice. If you're like really new in the language, most of these words you're really not going to know. But maybe if you're not, maybe you have a little bit of a base. if you have a little bit of a base and a foundation, you might know how to say some of these verbs. So then you might say, oh, I know this word and I can use it with ease. Or, ooh, I know it, but I need more practice. Or heck, maybe this word doesn't translate into my target language. Sometimes words don't translate very well. So you're going to use, for this activity here, you could search on YouTube, and that's great. That'll help you with the pronunciation. But hopefully, my hope is that after you finished part 1, this one here, that you have a decent understanding, at least decent understanding of when you see a word, how should you pronounce it? At least decent idea. So that if you're starting to use a dictionary or an online translator to get these words, that you can look at it and you can know how to pronounce it by looking at the spelling. Does that make sense? So for these, you're going to use Google Translate or a dictionary or an online translator, and you look up one word at a time. There's 100 of them. So you might choose to only do 25 or 30 or 40. You might take your time with these. That's going to depend on you. You can pick if you want to drill through them, you want to do a little bit every day. This is going to be your decision how you deal with these. Okay, everyone's going to be different on these because there are a lot. I've given 100. It's like when you go to workout classes, they give modified versions of different exercises. So sometimes you might do a modified push-up versus a full push-up versus one-handed push-ups, just depending on your level of fitness. So some of you might not be able to do 100 words in a week, and some of you might be able to go, yeah, I can sit down and get this done. So it depends on the person. Same thing on the adjectives. I've given a whole bunch of adjectives here. Same columns. I don't know this word. I need more practice. I know this word and can use it with ease. This word doesn't translate. Big, small, good, bad. Very, very common words. Nothing that's uncommon. So let's scroll through. Okay. You're going to want to do a labeling activity to increase your noun vocabulary too. So I'm a big fan of this activity. You pick a room in your house. Every single day, you find 3 to 5 things that you don't know how to say in your target language, and you look those words up on YouTube or an online translator. YouTube, if you're looking to hear the pronunciation, right? Translator, if you just want to see how it's spelled. And you repeat this exercise every single day until you know how to say every single thing in that room. You repeat steps 1 to 3 until you can name everything in your house. Then you repeat all these same steps for everywhere you go regularly, your work or your commute to work, if you're on the bus or you walk in a certain park every day. And you're just going to, well, as you walk, go, okay, as you walk or as you are in a location, you're going to say, okay, what are 3 things around me that I don't know how to say? That one, that one, that one. Let me look those up. YouTube, online translator, dictionary, right? Look them up, and then you're going to write those down. Okay. And this is going to help expand your noun vocabulary. So this is the vocab focus. Like so far, you still can't express yourself in the language. Not really, right? You're just focusing on vocabulary, which is why, to be honest, you're going to want part 3. You're going to want part 2 and 3 at the same time. I'm telling you right now. And that takes us to the end, right, of this workbook here. Let's go to part 3. Now you're going to see very quickly why you want part 2 and part 3 at the same time. Part 3, some of it's focused on grammar essentials, okay? But look at number 2 and 3, speaking and writing exercises, as well as reading and listening exercises. You're going to really want these. When you're learning all these words, you're going to want to practice how to use them, or at least maybe do some reading exercises or listening exercises to see how other people use them. You're definitely going to want that. Okay, so grammar essentials. Now, this one, I pre-warn you that some of you may not choose to go super deep into this, because I find language learners fall into 2 camps. Some people love grammar and they go hardcore gung-ho into grammar. Some people don't really like it at all. So you're going to pick here how deeply you go into it. What I've done is I've listed out very common grammatical features that exist in languages. If you have, I'm not going to explain these in the video. I'll let you read through these. If you have questions about them, you can ask me. Like, just feel free to message me, DM me, email me. I'm very, very reachable on the internet. Just search at Polyglot Azren, POLYGLOT AZ or ZREN. Or there's a contact form on our website too. So just AzrenTheLanguageNerd.com. Contact me. You might want to watch some YouTube videos too about some of these. If you read through these and you're like, I don't really understand what Azren's saying, lots of videos will kind of break it down for you. So you might search, what is grammatical gender? You might search, what is grammatical number, like singular versus plural? What are noun classes? What are cases? Cases are quite difficult. That's quite a nightmare for English speakers. Right? What are tenses and moods? What are these? Right? If you really don't understand my written explanations, then you might want to do a little bit of Googling and YouTubing, or just ask me, email me, message me. I'm happy to help. There are others too. Like, I've not listed everything, and there are often language specific grammar rules. So in English, we have phrasal verbs. That's an English thing. Or Mandarin has ba constructions. That's like a Mandarin thing. That's not something in all languages. Whereas, for example, tenses and moods are in many languages. Cases are in many languages. So sometimes you do get language specific grammar points too. So the exercise I've given you, and you could, like, this here, if you love grammar, you can go hardcore here, and you could hypothetically spend weeks on this, actually, weeks and weeks. I don't think you should. I think you should go as deep, keep going until it drives you crazy and you can't stand it anymore. Okay. And then revisit it another day. So you're going to want to YouTube and Google, are there genders in your language? Not all languages have genders. Is there a way to identify a word's gender based on the spelling? Does grammatical number exist? How do you differentiate plural versus singular? Are there noun classes? What are the noun classes? How do you determine what falls into where? You're going to do a whole bunch of YouTubing and Googling, so you can have a nice understanding of what grammar are you now going to be tackling in this language. The goal is not necessarily to go learn all the grammar. It's not really what you're trying to do. You're trying to give yourself a preview to go, okay, this is what I will have to learn over time. Okay, I'm going to have to figure out cases. Interesting. I'm going to have to figure out this tense. Okay. Oh, that's how that tense works. Okay, I see. The one thing I would focus on, when we get, well, it's okay. Yeah. I mean, do I want to say anything here? I would focus on, you need to be able to, like, no, it's okay. Let's leave it for this. It's okay. It's not important. It's not important. Go as deep as you mentally can handle on that grammar, because that can be a very deep rabbit hole. And for some people, you're not going to want to go very deep into it, and that's okay. Now, this is the key one. I've given some exercises on how to practice speaking and writing. Okay. So self-talk and journaling are two staples I use. So journaling is journaling. I think everyone knows what journaling means. You write about different topics. Self-talk is where you talk to yourself in a language. So let me do a demonstration. Okay. I might go, I'm brushing my teeth, or like I'm just in the mirror doing my hair, and I might go, hey, let's say I'm learning Mandarin, right? Let's say it's English, actually, so you guys all understand English. Let's say I'm learning English. In the mirror, I'm going to out loud talk to myself and go, hey, how's it going? I'm doing good. How about you? I'm doing good too. You're having conversations with yourself. Or you might just talk out loud about whatever comes to mind. Now, people struggle with this. They're like, what do I talk about? How do I do that? So I've made it easier for you. I've given you some topics. These are journaling and self-talk topics. These are both. Okay, so you can talk about these or write about these. They work for all of them, okay? My favorite ones are these first four. Write 5 3 to 4 word sentences. Write 5 5 to 6 word sentences. Write 5 7+ word sentences. Write a short conversation between two people. You can do these. I would recommend you do this as often as you possibly can. I keep doing this. Just do this, anything. And I would recommend you talk those out too. So instead of writing your sentence, sometimes you might go, okay, I'm going to say a 3-word sentence. I like cheese. I like pizza. 4-word sentence. I don't like pineapples or whatever. Sounds so silly, but no. This is very important. And then I've given some other topics as well, which you can read through, and you can decide what you want to write about / talk about. You can do different topics more than once, by the way. I actually recommend doing some more than once, especially things like tell you about yourself. Like you should be able to do that like reasonably quickly, right? So if you do that multiple times, you'll get a lot better at that. So there's various topics. You guys can read through the topics on your own. I've given some reading and listening practices here as well. Now, the reading and listening, unfortunately, you're going to have to do some YouTubing and Googling because I don't know what language you're currently learning. So I've given some search prompts. So you go into YouTube and Google, and you're going to search these right here. Let me do a demonstration. Oh, I need to change this. It's actually not, that's the wrong link. It's 90. Shoot, I need to change that. Okay, I'll fix that right after. So you go into YouTube, right? And let's say you're looking for like listening comprehension. Okay, so you copy this and paste. You're going to find lots of websites. You pick one. You click it. You click on a listening exercise. And then you complete the exercise. So I don't want to do this. No, I'll just, whatever. I have an ad blocker, which is all. Right, you do the exercise. Then you try it. You go through all the exercises. You'll find some there. Look at here. There's one here on YouTube. Another search query. Let's say that doesn't work. Whoops. Let's say that one doesn't work. You try a different search query. Beginner reading practice in French. And of course, if you're not learning French, you replace French with another language. Maybe it's Japanese or whatever. Boom, look at that. Lots and lots and lots of websites. Maybe it's, let's try Arabic. Like, it's a different language. Look at that right there. Arabic reading practice for absolute beginners. First link. Amazing. Okay, so that one you're gonna have to try these different search queries to see what kind of things you can find, because I don't know what language you're learning. But that's why I said this program will not work for endangered languages and such, because listen, you're not going to find listening practices and things like that for endangered languages online. And that takes you to the end. So once you finish this, once you've actually completed the program, you've got a few options of where you go. Because at this point, if you've really done this diligently and you've really got an hour and a bit per day, 90 days, maybe multiple hours, you've been really diligent. Maybe it took you longer than 90 days. That's cool. But it's, you're going to have this slow conversational level, slow and simple conversational level. That's there's a point where you do want to start finding a tutor or talking with other people at a minimum, not even necessarily a tutor. So you might want to hire a skilled tutor to do some conversational practice and really develop the base you now have. Or even participating in casual conversation events. Often they're free, like on Duolingo events. That's a platform you might like. Meetup has them. On my website, there's some free, you'll find a section where there's free classes that are very kind of conversational. That might be something you want to start doing now once you have this kind of foundation to really start to build upon that. Or you might redo some of the exercises in this program. You might redo certain things until it starts to get more comfortable. So that's the intro. I hope you guys liked that. Hope it was useful, and hope you learned something from it. Got a nice intro to that program. Sorry, not sure why I did that. I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.